What happens when you outsmart your HOA using their own rules? Several years ago, we decided to install a couple of cameras in front of our house to watch over our vehicles. The cameras were set at angles that slightly captured two neighbors' yards, one backyard and one side yard. However, these cameras had a useful feature that allowed us to gray out any area we did not want to record. When something moved inside those grayed out zones, the cameras would not activate. We made sure the entire parts of both neighbors' properties were grayed out, along with several bushes on our own property. We took privacy very seriously and made sure everything was set correctly from the beginning. One of the neighbors was a good friend, and she had absolutely no problem with it. We invited her over, showed her the camera angles, and explained how the system worked. She even said it didn't matter to her whether we grayed out her yard or not, but we kept it disabled anyway to save battery life. The other neighbor, whom I will call Karen, was a completely different story. She was on the HOA board, and we had never gotten along with her. Even though we weren't friendly, we still informed her about the cameras just as a courtesy. We showed her the grayed out areas and made it very clear we were not asking for permission. It was simply information so she wouldn't make wild assumptions. She reacted exactly as you'd expect. She told us to take the cameras down immediately or we would regret it. About a week later, the HOA sent us a notice saying we were violating a bylaw. Since there was no rule against installing cameras, they claimed we were creating a nuisance to neighbors. We responded with a detailed letter explaining that nothing we did broke any HOA rules or any laws. We asked them to stop bothering us, but anyone who has ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA knows they rarely back down. Their reply was condescending, basically telling us, the HOA has the right to enforce the bylaws, try to stop us if you can. This attitude was common with this board, so we changed strategies. If they wanted a fight, we would make sure it was a long and expensive one for them. The HOA hired a lawyer specifically to go after us, something that had never happened to any other homeowner. Over the next 4 months, we managed to cost them more than $4,000 in attorney fees, which was huge considering the entire HOA only made around $25,000 a year. We postponed the scheduled hearing 3 times, thanks to advice from an attorney friend. We exchanged more than 100 emails with the HOA's lawyer, and each one cost the HOA about 15 minutes of billable time. I made sure that every answer they gave me led to another question. If the lawyer replied to a follow-up, I sent another follow-up. If they disliked that, too bad. They chose this fight. We did not actually want the issue to end up in court, so on the day of the hearing, we removed the cameras to avoid any chance of being fined. Even though the fine would not have held up legally, we preferred not to deal with extra hassle. During the hearing, the HOA found us guilty of violating the nuisance bylaw, even though the cameras were already removed. They couldn't fine us because the bylaws only allow fines after the hearing, and by then, nothing was left to fine us for. Their big punishment was a dramatic letter from their lawyer, sent by certified mail, stating that we were not allowed to place a camera on our home that had the potential to invade a neighbor's privacy. The key words were extremely important. On our home. We decided to wait quietly until the annual HOA meeting. When I asked the board to explain the mysterious $4,000 listed as title searches, attorney fees, their faces were priceless. They had tried to hide the money they wasted fighting us. Homeowners were angry, and half the board lost their positions. Sadly, Karen managed to stay. 1 week after that meeting, we installed new cameras facing the same direction, but this time mounted on a post in the ground instead of on the house. Their own letter only banned cameras placed on our home. Nothing mentioned a post. They still tried sending a letter telling us to remove them, but this time, a firm response from us shut them down. They didn't want another expensive battle. The cameras on the post stayed up, and more than 2 years later, they are still there, working perfectly, and the HOA has never dared to say another word.